Who has been on a roller coaster? Alright, everybody almost. Alright. Roller coasters are what?
Exciting, fun.
Thrills, excitement, and fear. Yeah. When do you feel fear?
When you're going down.
When you're going down?
Upside down.
Upside down.
When you're going up? Why?
Like on the first one where you're just like, they stop.
Yeah.
When it stops right
Right at the top?
down.
Or if you're the first one you're looking at and there's nothing in front of you.
And you see something going down? Why are you afraid?
It's less fear, more adrenaline.
Wait, one at a time.
It's less fear, more adrenaline.
Okay.
And it's kind of because like the higher you are, the farther you're gonna fall.
The bigger you are, the harder you fall kind of mentality?
Yeah.
Okay.
Depending on how steep it is, like I've been on some where you can't see the track anymore. When you get to the top and you look down and it just goes straight down so you can't see it. So you're not really sure where you're gonna go.
That's very good. A lot of
Like,
them.
just drop off.
Yeah, she mentioned that the unknown is fearful. You don't know how much farther you're going to go down. You can't always see. A lot of this relates to what we're going to talk about. All those same feelings you get is going to relate to our chapter 12, section 2, which is business cycles. So business cycles, you have to know, we go through them. It's always temporary. We're always going through an up economy and we're always going down. And so every cycle is different. Some last longer than others. But it's always a cycle. Sometimes we like to think that when we're going up, we'll stay up forever, but that's not the case. So I just want you guys to know that our objective for today is to identify the phases of the business cycle, and we're going to get into that. Yes, Connor?
Are we doing box jumps again?
Yeah, I'll get into that in a second.
Okay.
Yeah. So first, I want you to know what is a business cycle. Well, it's macro. So it's not something that we talk about the city of Upland's going up or down, or the city of Malibu. So that can be a business cycle for different cities, but we're talking about the macro version of it, the government of the United States. So usually we have economists, they want to study our cycles because it affects how we're going to invest in things, when we buy, when we sell. When do you want to buy a home? At the peak or at the low of an economy? The low. And the low is called a trough. And we'll talk about that in a second. Yeah, I know it's an interesting word.
But don't you want to sell?
You usually want to buy low, sell high is usually the concept. Problem is, when is it low and when is it high? So there are 4 major phases of the business cycle. And they are expansion, peak, contraction, trough. I know it looks like tro. Don't say tro. I used to say tro. I sound like an idiot for the longest time. But I'm not. It's called trough. I'll let you know that right now. So what does this look like? Mountain? Yes.
Roller coaster.
Roller coaster? Yes. So we've heard these words in other phases of life. And so you have a peak, like peak of the mountain, peak of the roller coaster. You have the trough, or I guess we'll call it sea level. We're talking about like landscape. So that's important. Those are the 4 phases. We'll get into those in more detail. So first off, we're going to talk about expansion and peak. And expansion is when real GDP, we've talked about before, the whole economy as a whole, when it rises. So when it rises over a period of time, not like just a little bit, like, oh, today it rose a little bit. No, it's usually, when it's rising, it goes up and down for a little bit, day by day. But in general, it's going up. Even though it's going up and down, in general, it's going up.
Like a bull market?
Yeah, it's like, exactly. It's like a bull market we learned about. So we learned about bear market and bull market. And the expansion is when we have a bull market, things going up. And bear is the opposite, which we'll talk about in a second, contraction. So the peak is what?
The highest.
Highest point. What do you feel like when you're at the peak?
What's that?
When you're on top of a mountain, if you had this tough climb, you're going up like Mount Everest, you get to the peak, what does it feel?
Top of the world.
Accomplished?
Relief.
Rush?
Relief.
Relief? Maybe done working so hard? Alright. So but then after you're done with the peak, and you look down, you have to go back down, right? Now what do you feel? Yeah, oh man. So, alright, before we move on to the next one, I want you to pick one of these two, either expansion or peak, And I want you to do a box note for me. Box notes, I'll go over it again. You have 4 boxes into one big box. And it could be like 1/4 of your page. Or if you want to make it smaller, 1/6. So you can do like 4 or 6 per page. On the top left, I want you to have a term. Like my example is expansion. Top right is definition. A period of economic growth as measured by a rise of real GDP. On these two, there is a right answer. Make sure you get these ones correct. The bottom two, there's no right or wrong answer. It all depends on you. So the bottom left's a picture. Whatever you think of in your mind you want to draw a picture of, you do it. Whatever you think of. For me personally, when I think of expansion, I have a small box, I have arrows pointing out, I have a little bit bigger box. And then I have another box outside of that. And then another one. So the box in my mind is expanding. And that's what I thought of. So whatever you think about, draw me a picture. And you can do either an expansion or peak. Bottom right is how it relates to you. Does this concept relate to you in your life? Have you ever been hiking before, roller coaster? Have you seen it in a movie? Your dad, your mom, your best friend? Or like, I've never heard this before. It relates to me because of this lesson. But I think you've probably heard of expansion or peak before. So these two, do whatever comes to you. So when you're done, yes, Connor.
Well, yeah. What was GDP again?
Gross domestic product. So we'll go more into that. I'll talk to you after class about that if you want to know more.
Okay.
We learned about that yesterday. But that is basically how we measure the economy as a whole, if it's going up or down. We take the supply of output and input and see how much we're actually growing as our economy. Well, I'll go more into it after class with you. When you're done, you guys are really on task right now. I really appreciate it. Go ahead and talk. Don't be quiet. It's okay to talk. And talk with a partner. And show them. You don't need to show them these top two because you're the same. Show them your picture and show them the relationship. You know, if it's funny, great. Hey, I drew this funny picture. It relates to this way. And so go ahead and get started right now. You guys can all 3 be together. If you need any help, raise your hand. I'll help you. Mr. Smile. How you doing? Oh, that's too big for me. He's always laughing. I like it. That's too big for me. Did you show up? What? Right? How's it relate to you guys? Yes, Lauren. You guys can show me. Okay, class. Can I have all your attention, please? Everybody? All right, Matt. You want to show us what you are talking about? All eyes on Matt.
I drew a picture of a guy on a mountain for peak.
Okay.
And then I said, the relationships, like I've seen a lot of actors peak, like movie actors, and then like disappear after that.
They hit their peak of their career and then they're done.
And then they fall in.
That's a very good example. We got that in athletes too, right? Usually like with basketball players, you hit your peak. A lot of people think Kobe Bryant's hit his peak.
Nope.
I don't agree with that. But usually the older you get as an athlete, you eventually rise and you hit a peak and then start falling down at the end of your career. So that makes great sense. Thank you. Can we get someone else to share, please? Yes, want to come up here and show it?
Yes.
Alright. I like your shirt, by the way.
Thank you. It's expansion, and I just sponge and it's up the water and yeah, I said it relates to me because
Alright. Yeah. Anybody else? Yes, one more.
I did skate and I just went to Six Flags like 2 weeks ago, so it reminded me of this roller coaster. I can't remember which one it was. And we got to the top, and then I was gliding, and you look down and the track disappears, and I was like, oh my gosh, where is it? So I drew a picture of a roller coaster, and now I wrote too.
All right. Anybody else dying this year before we move on? Okay. Does everybody get what we talked about?
Yeah.
Y'all understand it? Okay. I'm glad you understand. Because the next two are the opposite. Contraction and trough. Trough. Think like trough, not trough. Trough. Yeah, I got big trough. So contraction is the opposite of what?
Expansion.
Yeah, opposite of expansion. So following the peak of the mountain, when you get to the top of the mountain, you have to go back down, right?
Yeah.
That's contraction. And someone said they are afraid, right? When they're going down. Why?
You can't see what's happening.
Can't see what's happening. You don't know how much farther you get to the bottom.
Yeah.
When is it going to go back up again? Am I going to make it alive when I get to the bottom?
Pass out.
Yeah. So that's like an economy. When you're going down, the economy's going down in what kind of market variable?
Bear.
Bear. So it's going down in a bear market. You kind of have to think to yourself, like, am I going to make it out of this? Am I going to be okay? A lot of people have this, and they go through this. I'm sure maybe you had some parents go through this as well. So you have these fears. When you hit the bottom, it's called a what again?
Trough.
Trough. So trough is the lowest point of the, when it finally done declining. Problem with trough, we don't know sometimes at the end of the cycle, is it really at a trough? Are we going to go back up next year? Is it done now, or are we going to rise a year later, or a year later? So sometimes it's hard to predict when we're at the trough. Well, it's hindsight, you always know, but it's hard to predict it. For example, when we had the Great Depression, we had the rise in 20s, went up in expansion in a bull market, hit the stock crashed in 1929, and it crashed bigger and bigger and bigger than anybody expected, and then didn't come out of it fully until after World War II. Right before it crashed, yeah, it was a peak. Yeah. Yeah, peak and then crash. So just like this, same concept, right? Rise in 20s, right, peak, and then the crash, bam, depression right here. And it was really bad. We were in a trough for a long time. You don't know how long the trough's going to be. Finally, we started getting out of it. World War II basically ended it for us, and we got the baby boomer generation and started getting another expansion. Yes. So for this one, do another box note for me, class. Do a contraction or a trough. You get to pick. Whatever one you feel more comfortable with. So draw me a picture and do all 4 boxes for a contraction or a trough. Raise your hand if you need any help, and I'll walk around. And when you're done, go ahead and pair up and show each other each answers. Alrighty, huh? You want to show each other? Alright. Yeah, thanks, I'll work on it. So you guys show each other. What? Yeah. Bottom of the sea. Show each other's pictures.
Big trough.
Big trough. Alright. You guys good? I know some of you guys are still working, so I'll give you guys another minute. And you'll have a chance to share when everybody's done. Alright, so I want someone to share with me what they drew and how it relates to them. Who wants to go first? Abe? Come up here, come up here.
No, it's cool.
Alright.
Wow.
Can I show it to them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or what's it called? I drew a fish.
Trout. Trout.
Yeah, I drew a trout.
Drew a trout. Do you think of a trout?
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, whatever you think of, fine. Sure. Whatever helps you remember it. What's the relationship?
Like economy tech, I think.
Economy today, you think we're in a trough? Okay. Yes, Lauren.
I did trough, and I said that I fell off a hill.
You fell off a hill?
Yeah.
When that happened?
Like you're at the top of the hill.
Like Jack and Jill?
Yeah.
And then when you hit the bottom, you're on the trough?
That was
Yeah.
originally the end.
I've never seen it. But I don't think I want to see it. Yes?
I did trough, and I drew the bottom of the ocean floor, like the lowest part.
Okay, that's great. Good. Colleen?
I don't know why, it reminded me of some chocolate, but maybe think of Willy Wonka, and I thought of how, like, at the waterfall, like, when chocolate all falls, it settles in little ponds of chocolate.
Nice. You guys all hear that? Want to say it one more time?
When, like, in Willy Wonka's factory, like, movie, when they have, like, the chocolate waterfall, when it falls down into the pond, it just kind of settles there. It's like,
That's a very good visual. Can you hear what you said? Good. Tropical chocolate? That's a good way to remember it. Tropical chocolate. Alright. That's great. Everybody else? You drew a toilet. Okay? So it goes to the bottom? Yeah. Okay. Hey, let us remember it, right? Everybody get it?
Yeah.
Okay. Now you're always welcome to email me, and I'll always help you. So, those 3 things you need to know. We already talked a lot about recession and depression, but these two also deal with the business cycles. A recession, they usually define it between 6 to 18 months of drops of GDP. GDP drops generally for 6 to 18 months, we'll call it a recession. Depression is much more severe, and you have high unemployment rate and low factory output. And here's another thing. So when you combine 2 words, anybody ever heard of the word fantabulous?
Yeah.
What are they combining? What's your words? Alright. So we do this in a lot of words, right? So we have stagflation, which is stagnant and inflation. Stagnant and inflation is like stagflation. Stagnant means unmoving. Inflation is general increase in prices. Now, attention please. Thanks. So, stagflation combines both of them. So what happens is you have a decline in real GDP and output, so you have less stuff to buy from, and we're manufacturing less stuff. We're not making as many things. We have a decline. But the problem is we combine it with a rise of price levels. We have inflation at the same time. When this happens, it's bad. We don't want this in our economy. But it happens every once in a while, and this really causes us to be not in a bull market, but what kind of market? Bear. So, I want you guys one more time do a box note, and then you have to pick any one of these 3. You already know probably a lot about recession and depression, because we talked about that more in depth in the past. This one's a new concept, so I gave you some details, and I'll go over it more. But I want you to pick one, and draw me a picture and how it relates to you. And even if you think of 2 words that make it of a new word, and that's pretty cool too. So I always think of fantabulous. If there's other words out there that you know about, go ahead and come to me. So go ahead and do that. And when you're done, go ahead and share the partner, and we'll come back to class and we'll share it in the whole class in a minute.